Hey y'all, hey y'all, peace and blessings. Come on in, come on in. Thank you for being here. If you're catching the replay of this video, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Turn on all of your notifications to all so when I go live or upload a video, you get notified. Come on into the room, y'all. We got some things to discuss in this political arena. There's a lot going on, and it comes to mind speaking on um, draining the swamp. Just gives a new meaning or a more clear meaning for me when you talk about actually draining the swamp. Right, there's a lot going on. Hey, Sassy, blessings, peace and blessings to you. Thank you for coming on through. I appreciate you. Thank you for being a member as well. I appreciate you being a continued member and a continued supporter. Thank you so much. For anybody that is interested in becoming a member, the link is pinned to the top of the chat. So we're going to get right off into it, y'all. I'm not one for long intros, but I just definitely want to give some context because we have had a lack of transparency in many administrations, or when it comes to the political arena as a whole. We don't get a lot of transparency, even though a lot of them will put forth the promises and the assurances that at some point we will, or they do, or that is their promise to us, providing we put them into office, we elect and vote for them. However, when it's all said and done, we did it, Joe. We did it. But the lack of transparency in this last administration has been baffling to me. Now, there are certain aspects of that administration that was not transparent, but I don't think it was through any will or design of their own. It was because they're not good at covering their tracks, or maybe they felt that their time was short, and so they disregarded trying to keep it under the veil of disguise, right? But then again, we do have a culture of people where we're actually waking up as a collective and becoming more aware and putting a keen eye out for the different tactics that have been used and utilized in the past, that has worked, that is no longer really working at this point. If you don't mind, give me a quick moment. I have got to take this call. Give me just a second. Okay, thank you for your patience. Sorry for the interruption. So, when it comes to again, we were talking about the lack of transparency. We are now experiencing an administration where they are doing government audits and they are going head in. Now we're talking about a little less than a month, actually. That this, Trump and his current administration has been in office, right? And so there are definitely questions about money allocation, and that's what we're going to go over. I won't make this a terribly long live, but I do want to provide some information when it comes to where has our money been going. Because for the last 4 years, if I'm not, you know, if I'm correct in my recollection of the past 4 years, the American people and the U.S. citizens have been struggling. Okay, been struggling something kind of tough. No transparency, no monies. We have an illegal, or have had a severe, in my opinion, illegal immigration issue, and with those those illegal immigrants have come illegal tactics, illegal behaviors, illegal crimes that are being committed and have are being committed still to this day, though it seems to be diminishing, at least on the media front and on the news front. But we got homegrown issues that need to be addressed, that have needed some great attention, some type of consideration for particularly our vets. I want to talk about that for a second. When you talk about the veterans, the lack of appreciation has been astounding to me. So you can support and bring in the illegal immigrants, provide them with more than what the US citizens are privy to and have been privy to and are currently privy to, and then throw it in our faces with our tax monies and say that this is what we're doing, whether you agree, you adhere to it, whether you align with the process or you don't. And so it has just been a really big situation, along with, so look at the hurricanes, with the in North Carolina, in Florida. The most devastating one of this past season has been in North Carolina, and those people are still destitute. There are people that still are displaced, misplaced, and don't have homes. They don't have a residence or a place that they can call their home. They don't have answers. They are living pillar to post in a system that they have invested in, that they have poured in, that they have spent their life's work supporting, only to feel abandoned, right? Only to feel as if they don't matter. And then look at the legal migrants, the ones that come to our country from other countries. They go through the due process. A lot of it takes, or a lot of them have found themselves taking a lot of time and energy, resources, monies, and sacrifice. Because most of them, if I'm not mistaken, they leave family members to come to this country to pave a better way of life, but then they've had to pay dues that the illegal migrants have not had to pay. And so that's just using one example of how the money has been misallocated, and there has been a lack of transparency when it comes to where is our money going. This is our money. These are our pesos. These are our dinero. This is our cheddar, our cheese. Where is all of this? No type of explanation, no nothing. And then they take it, whether they fraudulently embezzle it, whether they send it across in the guise to other countries as assistance, as help, as all of these other things that they've lied to us about straight up and outright. And then they expect for us to swallow it, for it to go down smooth, not say nothing, and keep going to work every day, having taxes taken out of our checks every day or every week, and we have no say so, we have no knowledge, we have no information where these funds are going to. We have no say so in the participation of how to run this country, how to make sure that our citizens, our vets, our elderly, our disabled, all of the parties, all inclusive, okay? Because last time, whether it seems to be a guise, I'm going to hold feet to the fire and say that I thought America was a melting pot. It was considered a place where people can come from all over the world and establish a better and a brighter way of living. Well, if you don't take care of the homegrown, and you don't take care of the US natural born citizens, then how can we rely on you or give trust to you in order to take care of anything else with the pure heart or with a strong foundational principle behind it? We supposed to be a Christian country. Well, that's a whole nother live stream, but you have yet to convince me that that's where we are. That is from the very fabric that this country claims to be have built upon, right? So we're gonna go right off into into the first video. And what has amazed me is the outrage, of the Democratic Party and the representatives, primarily the ones that have been benefiting the longest in office, that have had their pockets padded the most and the deepest. And you turn around and you got the nerve, you got the audacity and the unmitigated gall to be outraged because somebody has finally stepped into the Oval Office and said, where is all of this money been going for the past 4 years while this country has been running into ruins? Has been brought into almost ruins. We could not have, in my opinion, survived another administration such as this, or even anything less than the current one we have in office, being as aggressive, being as adamant, and being as meticulous with assigning, being intentional about putting people into office that are adamant about getting to the truth and draining the swamp. That's where we are with it. It took this drastic situation and this drastic change of power in this country in order to even put us into a situation or into a position where there's some hope that's been reignited amongst the citizens of this country. And now we got the liberals that got the nerve, the ones that have benefited seemingly the most, to be the maddest and to be the most offended that they would even be in this position to have to speak or defend themselves. Why would you have to defend yourself if you ain't did nothing? If you were for the people, by the people, and doing for the people, why would you feel a need to, first of all, become so angry? If I ain't doing nothing wrong, I'm going to show you my books. I'm going to be transparent. I am going to provide because this is not their money. This is our monies. These monies belong to us. Why is it okay for you to get mad because you have some questions to answer? Or there will be some accountability and some levels of accountability based off of the chain of events that are currently happening. Let's take a look at this, y'all. Salute to the chat. Salute to the chat. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Yes, indeed.
Now, this Democrats are ramping up their opposition to DOGE. What is their latest target, Grady?
David, Democrats took a little field trip up to the Baltimore area and staged a protest outside of the headquarters of the Social Security Administration. They chose that building because they say it's going to be the next target of DOGE, that DOGE is coming for American Social Security payments, despite the fact that President Trump has repeatedly denied any plans to do that.
Every time you hear DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, you just remember it is the Department of Government Evil.
This is a recipe for corruption by the DOGE boys and this government.
This is like a bank robber trying to fire the cops and turn off the alarms just before he strolls into the lobby.
They ain't got nothing else. They don't have nothing else. We are looking, with the exception of maybe one of these people at the podium having so much to say, they have all benefited the most, and they are screaming the loudest. Go figure.
We'll see you in Congress, in the courts, and in the streets.
Of course, has never said anything about making cuts to American Social Security benefits. They say they're looking for fraud, and there is reason to believe there could be some fraud at that agency. A nonprofit research institute called Just Facts found the Social Security Administration dispersed about $2 billion in fraudulent or improper payments in 2020.
So they say they're going to see us in the streets. They're going to see us in Congress. They're going to see us in the courts. They're going anywhere where they deem fit, right? They have most of them have the security clearances to do so. Well, I would like to know is, again, when you have government audits, that is how I deem Elon Musk. That's one of the reasons why they're in such an uproar. All they can do is throw stones from a glass house. Well, we got criminals in the White House. We got convicted felons in the White House. We've got this, we've got that, which that's supposed to negate, that's supposed to cancel out the light being shined upon you and your behavior behind closed doors. Because we see that you're not really all that graceful in the limelight. So I can only imagine what the behavior and the conduct looks like, and the lack of moral compass looks like behind closed doors. Case in point, we got good old Kamala Harris. After she lost the election, $1 billion is misplaced and gone. Nobody really knows the truth, the real truth. But we got some information. But even with the information that has been given to us, if we go off of said information, it's still not justified. It's no wonder we are in trillions of dollars of deficit. And from what I am reading and gathering on research and information just in the past 4 years, the poor decisions, the lack of transparency, the behind the door behavior, behind the closed doors behavior that's been going on, we're looking at about $1 trillion just in 4 years, if the math is mathing. Okay. Yet we, as the average American, have no clear idea where this money has actually been going. Until recently, we've been getting some answers. Recently, we've been getting some level of transparency, certainly more transparency than we've gotten in the past, and we'll narrow it down the past 4 years, right? We're talking about fraudulent activity. We're talking about embezzlement. We're talking about frivolous spending. We're not speaking on chump change. We are speaking on monies that would change the fabric and the lifestyle of practically every single solitary American's life, if that money was allocated and our people were put first. Okay. Speaking of fraud, it seems and sounds like we have 150-year-old Social Security disability payees that are still with us. Now, what I will say is that, particularly, even though it's been, in my opinion, prior to that, it's really been shown to the light of all of the different ways that our life expectancy is being shortened, whether it's through the food, the water, the poor air quality, medications, pharmaceutical medications, poor diet, poor availability and lack of availability for things to help us sustain longevity and quality of life, much less getting older. But last time I checked, I don't know nobody that's 150 years old. I know of a few of my elders that have lived to be, the longest one is 108, but that made the news. That made newspaper clippings. That brought the whole city or the county out to celebrate their transition. That was a milestone. That was something that was celebrated and acknowledged far and wide. Why do we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of payees that are classified as being 150 years old collecting Social Security checks? Let's listen to Elon Musk talk about it.
I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not it's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it.
Who is cashing those checks? Who's cashing the check? Somebody got to be cashing the checks. The money's going somewhere. And we obviously don't have a plethora of 150-year-old living beings walking around being able to be eligible for those in evidence of them actually existing. And then every year or every milestone, every time that Social Security is brought up in a conversation, one of the first leading points is that we're going to run out of Social Security. Well, at this rate, yeah, we will. But why? When you have billions upon billions, and that's just guesstimating, we have no idea who's cashing these checks of this amount when there's so many people that could benefit from just a fraction of that amount and have a sustainable lifestyle. It's not going to be rich or wealthy, but it will keep them from stressing. They don't have to go to the stores and pick between bread and eggs. They don't have to decide if they're going to put gas in their car or keep the lights on. They don't have to go live with their children because they can't afford the ever inflating prices of living expenses off of the Social Security that is eligible. Now, I will say that it does continue, in my opinion, to require or need an overhaul every now and again to make sure that people that are receiving it really do need it, qualify for it, and are eligible for it. But when you got people and ghosts around here that are collecting Social Security, when you got real flesh and blood people that are truly living on this land that can't get it, then what does that say? Where is the money going is what I want to know. Go ahead, Elon.
And that they receive it quickly and accurately.
That was. Uh-oh, I don't know what happened. Okay, so basically, I just wanted to emphasize and to put emphasis on that there are Social Security benefits out here enough to fund ghosts, to cipher and to siphon monies, right, from the system. But again, my default question is going to be, what about the people that are citizens of this country, that pay their taxes, that have invested, that procreate, and then their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren are also paying into the same system that they have paid and have been paying into? And if, listen, Social Security is the primary tax that comes out of every check. I don't care where you work. If you get a check, Social Security is coming out of it. What does that say about the people that's paying into it, that's constantly being told that by the time, particularly the younger generations, that by the time you get old enough to spend it, ain't gonna be none there, or become eligible for it, not gonna be any there for you. So you're paying, in essence, they want you to be okay to pay into a system that you don't even benefit from, that you get no value from, that your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will not experience, right? If the need and the eligibility is there. I want to emphasize that because that's there for a particular reason. But now let me just clear this up, and then we're going to move on. Social Security is not a federally funded government association. It is paid for the people, by the people, and should be given to the people, not to ghosts, not to other countries, classified as something else, like a condom donation for other countries. We got abortion clinics over here, but you want to spend millions of dollars sending over to other countries and claim and put on paper and in writing that this is to help people in other countries with their procreation plan. Boy, I tell you, we living in a real strange time, right? So I don't know how this level of fraud is even possible with the supposed government oversight. And now that we've got an administration that is in office, willing to take a deeper dive, and we wonder why these attacks have been coming so fiercely upon President Trump. I mean, every opportunity they get, they've been trying to take this man up out of here. If they can't take him up out of here, they want to imprison him. If they can't imprison him, they want to disqualify him from running for office. Now that he has defeated all of those odds and he is in office, now the only thing they got to do is be big mad because the control has been taken from them. This is another facet or another venue, another direction our monies have been going to.
$3 million on a gas station in Afghanistan that had no customers. Still less, though, than what Biden paid for a charging station here. $1.5 million to promote gays, lesbians, and trans in Jamaica. Jamaican me crazy. $4 million for trans Serbians. $5.5 million for gay rights in Uganda. Over $6 million for men who have sex with men in South Africa. $17 million to promote inclusion in Vietnam. $25 million to promote green transportation in Georgia, not the state, the country. $8 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. Well, at least nobody died, right? Wrong. $122 million of the USAID money was given to terrorists. The Taliban.
So we got taxpayers' monies funding terrorists. Well, if you think about it, they're actually funding terrorists on our own soil with some of the illegal immigrants that have come over here that we've given plethora of resources to. So this ain't really nothing new, but now we're talking about it. Let's go.
And is taxpayer funded. So is the Wuhan lab. So we're on a roll.
All right. So when it comes to speaking on some of our monies going over to the terrorists, we are really finding out, including large media companies from other countries and organizations, parts of the world that we have no vested interest in. We are told that we don't have good relationships with, but yet and still they're getting more or better treatment and more resources provided with our American money than the Americans. To me, depending on how it's put, it can be infuriating. Sometimes I have to go through these lives, and when I'm preparing for these lives, I don't expect for everybody to share the same passion. However, what I will say is that it affects every last one of us. I don't care what your tax bracket looks like, your income, if it's 5, 6, or 7 digits looks like. I don't care about your personal circumstances being so unique to you that nobody else is in your position. If you don't work for somebody, somebody in your family does. if you don't feel the direct crunch, somebody connected to you do, right? It affects every last individual. And there should be a national cry of outrage the more information that is coming to light and that is being revealed. Now, speaking of outrage, we went through this whole situation with the North Carolina hurricane. First of all, I could go off into what I think happened and my quote unquote conspiracy theory, but I won't. I digress on that point. What I will say, however, is that it is public knowledge, or should be, that when it came time for FEMA to cut them checks, they only had $750 per family, not per person, per family. People lost their homes. They lost their vehicles. They lost their personal belongings. Many of them lost family members. There were casualties in that hurricane. There was disruption, and just it went through like a straight up hurricane and tore up some stuff where whole geographical locations have to be rebuilt. But you got $750 per family, and Kamala waited a week before she would take a public platform to utter those words from her mouth to the American people, to taxpayers, again, to U.S. citizens. Let's go.
Sent a staggering $59 million to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants, a move.
$59 million to luxury hotels. They didn't say tents. They didn't say camp houses. They didn't even say Motel 6s. They said luxury hotels. Before I continue, let me just say this. There were so many people that cleaned house and that gained generational wealth off of this catastrophic situation of allowing the borders to be completely open and unmanned enough to where we got over 20 million illegal immigrants, 20 million bodies that you cannot keep track of, you cannot get history on, you cannot hold accountable, you have no knowledge of what's over here, who's over here, what they've brought over here. We've got people dying of fentanyl overdoses, drug overdoses. There are so many different adverse effects, but our government decided that they were going to take from other organizations, FEMA being one of them, to the tune of $59 million and give it to the illegal migrants. You got the people with the charter buses that have been cleaning house, and now they gotta truck them back out of there. They have to use all the resources that are available, the current administration, in order to get them back out of here. So not only did they clean house and gain all of this wealth, bringing them in here, but now they got to participate in taking their asses, at least dropping them off at a neutral spot so they can take their behinds home. And then if they want to come over here legally, then that's what they're going to have to do. The hotels, full capacity, 20 million people is a lot of people. When you're dealing with sanctuary cities and these hotels are being funded by the federal government to private owners, what do you think they're going to do? Do you know how easy it made for them to be able to siphon funds, to embezzle, to create all of these nonprofits, all of these dummy corporations, in order for them to set them and their families up for generational wealth at the behest and at the cost of again, it seems to be the U.S. citizen that pays the price.
he says violates the president's executive order and is a gross misuse of taxpayer money. Musk claimed that his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, recently uncovered the funds and vowed that a clawback demand will be made to recoup the money. This controversy comes as the Trump administration intensifies efforts to overhaul FEMA.
Fox News Alert moments ago, we received this together. We received a statement from the DHS regarding the $59 million sent from FEMA to New York City migrants last week. Quote, 4 employees being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City.
Y'all, the list just grows and grows and grows. We can keep going on and on and on. So we were talking about when it comes to the FEMA monies, this is what I would like to know. I would like to know why up until this point this has been going on for generations. But I believe that there's a few different components that is brought it. First of all, we're living in the last days, in my opinion, right? Based off of biblical principles, prophecy, and word. We are living in the last day. Times is short for those that are evil. Panties being shown, the britches being shown, even though a lot of them being shown, voluntarily. There are some. Your pants are being pulled down in the middle of the street. Now we see what you're really working with, right? But the brazenness and the out in your face, we did it, Joe. We did it. We did it, Joe. But my question is, we in 2025. And you can tell that this rabbit hole goes super deep enough to where there are many, 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 many people in political office that have not wanted to see Trump back in that office. When he was in his first term, I'm sure he saw enough, a lot, and more than he thought he would see, and probably more than he wanted to see, to know that the way he was taken out of his position or his last days as being the president was less than graceful. The words that have been used and spewed at him and the attempts on his life. Every avenue they have been able to come at him, they have thrown at him. But why are we in 2025 and it just now coming to light to the magnitude that it has? That just don't sit well with me. That alerts me that people are complicit. That there are so many people that have benefited at the hands and at the livelihoods and at the cost of the taxpayers. You've got the very wealthy. The wealthier you are, seems the less taxes you pay because you learn the tax code. You learn basically the cheat code, which is intentionally, in my opinion, held from us. It's kept from us for a reason. Because if we learn it, then nobody will be paying taxes. Now we got Trump saying, I want to get rid of the IRS altogether. I don't want to. Listen, they need an overhaul. We need something different. This ain't working. The organizations and the departments that he is targeting and that he is focusing on, in my opinion, are the ones that is stealing the most with the less pushback, with the least amount of pushback. How many people I've never heard a president say that he was going to go toe to toe and take on the IRS. I don't know if anybody else has. Feel free to put it in the chat, but I haven't. But I'm here to tell you that endeavor alone, outside of everything else that he has intended to do, is planned to do, and is executing as we speak, is enough for him, for people not to want to see him finish out his 4 years. Right? Now, when it comes to foreign interests and organizations, I touched on it a few minutes ago, but I just want to do a small clip on Politico. So Politico is, I think, the largest or one of the largest media companies in Europe, right? And look at the amount of money. Listen to what is being said and look at the amount of money that has been sent over them by us.
Was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The DOJ team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see significant savings because of that effort.
Thank goodness for that. For it to be said out loud, the quiet part to be said out loud. If this is not, if what we look into is not good utilization of our country's taxpayers' monies, we're going to cut it off. We're going to separate ourselves and our funds and reallocate to something that actually benefits this country. If it benefits this country, then it's going to benefit the citizens of this country. Okay? Now, when it comes to asking the question, because I've always got questions. Or let me just start off with a statement. U.S. tax dollars should not be funding foreign propaganda machines, again, that do not serve American interests. But my question is, could this be a part of a larger strategy to control narratives globally? Because one of the things that I have noticed in the times that we are currently in is that a lot of the issues, a lot of the roadblocks, a lot of the problems, a lot of the lack of transparency, and a lot of the plans is not just on a countrywide scale, it is on a global scale. That would give a little bit of credence or at least context for me as to why we would be so willing. And when I say we, I use that term loosely. I'm talking about the government, the ones that have access to the monies, and the ones that say and approve where they go. But it would give some context as to why we are so free with sending money to places that have no connection to us, that we have no vested interest in, at least on the surface. What in the world? What is going on globally? And I'm asking that as a rhetorical question to fuel thought, because this is a global effort. Many of the issues that we are facing simultaneously, different parts of the world are facing. Many parts of the world. Look at South Africa. Look at the racial discrimination. Look at the farmers being mistreated. But because most of us either never have or never will visit South Africa, we rely on the news and the media to give us the information that pertains or that would give us, again, context of what's going on over there. The media is always, I stopped watching the news many years ago, actually during COVID. Propaganda, the movies, I'm very particular about what movies I watch. I believe very little of what I hear, let me get that right. I believe very little of what I see and none of what I hear. I have to dig deeper in order to give it credence, in order for it to use up any space in my head, because there's always an agenda. There's always a plan. And most of the time, we are the ones that are collateral damage, and that's the taxpayers. Speaking of collateral damage, I just want to bring in that it's not just being addressed from an international perspective as far as money's being spent, but it's also on our own soil. And we're looking at thousands, over 10,000 government employees coming up on their last day relatively soon, right? Now, I don't know a whole lot about that. I know enough to speak on what I'm speaking on. So it seems as if there are a lot of employees that really aren't doing a lot of work, or there isn't a need for as many employees in the government capacity. And that's where a lot of the money seems to be going, right? And so I'll let them explain it a little bit better than I can, and then we'll just give a little context to it and move on from there. Let's go.
Now, USAID is being folded into the State Department, who plans to keep only about 290 employees. More than 10,000 will lose their jobs tonight at midnight. Unions representing the workers say these actions have generated a global humanitarian crisis by abruptly halting the crucial work of USAID employees, grantees, and contractors. They have cost thousands of American jobs, and they have imperiled U.S. national security interests.
Okay, so let's read that again. These actions have generated a global humanitarian crisis by abruptly halting the crucial work of USAID. They have cost thousands of American jobs, and they have imperiled U.S. national security interests. So, the first thing I want to do, because I have to be transparent here, there's so many different organizations that we don't hear about every day, not until they're brought into the middle of the street or they're causing problems, right? So the acronym for USAID, it stands for U.S. Agency for International Development, and it helps countries in need by reducing poverty, promoting democracy, and responding to disasters. How has that worked out for us the past 4 years? I'm just asking. Has it reduced poverty in the United States? Has it assisted even in natural catastrophes or in catastrophic situations? Has it come through? Because recently is when I first heard of it. So when the hurricane in North Carolina happened, all I heard about was FEMA, the wildfires in California. I didn't hear about it then. So if the purpose is to reduce poverty, even though they talk about doing it in other countries, it's an international organization, it gives context as to why it is being looked at and being downsized. I think enough of the countries outside of the United States, whether we have a direct interest in their country or not, whether we have a beneficial relationship with them or not. I think that they've benefited enough from our money, more so than the citizens of this country. Why are the citizens being put last? You talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. That is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about this country, and particularly the past 4 years, and how in your face everything has been, how they have gone after our children to put them through and to promote sex changes that would put them on medicine for the rest of their lives. Put the parents in a precarious position to where we don't have any say so once that child goes to a school and they talk to an authority figure, a teacher, a counselor, somebody part of the administration, and they say, my mama and my daddy don't support me and they don't understand me wanting to be a boy when I was anatomically born a girl, or vice versa. And they can take that child from our homes, from our bosoms, from our moral fibers. That's how we benefit. Monies have been going to all of these newly created organizations to support that and to strip more and more rights away from the ones that gave these children life, and that's the parents. You're dealing with all of these organizations and all of these facades, all of these smoke and mirrors, when at the end of the day, these same very people that have had control over our money and our resources, out of the same mouths spew that we don't have a right to rear our children. We can take care of them. We can provide for them. But when it comes to anything that interferes with the global agenda of the elite, we don't have no rights. And what perplexes me even more so is that we collectively as a people have allowed this to take place and happen. Now, getting back to the government employees, the USAID is laying off many because a lot of them aren't working, or they're not utilizing, again, the United States of America resources and financial portfolio wisely. It is nice to have someone say that they're going to do something and then they execute it. I was always taught that politicians are nothing but liars. And that may be true to an extent. But so far, out of all of the president elections I have lived through and I have witnessed, this one here is probably the most I have seen foot put to ass out of all the administrations, for the people, for the country, for the source of which it comes from. That matters, whether it matters to some or whether it doesn't. Okay, so I want to give just a couple more clips and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it on up, right? I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. Some of it may be repetitive because I know it's a hot topic that a lot of content creators are covering right now. But we all have something different to add, or fresh or new, or at the very least, a different perspective in some cases, right? So if I sound repetitive, I apologize. I try not to, but I just definitely want to give as much of a perspective, because as a people, I don't think that we are as politically versed as we should be. When you are programmed and taught and encouraged to vote on a national level before a local level, and we don't see collectively the importance of local elections if you are in the arena of voting at all, or being a participant in selecting representatives that will enforce laws, legislation being passed, we got work to do. So if it sounds repetitive, it sounds repetitive. Let's let it etch in. Let's let it sink in. Let's slow walk it, so it can be digested to a degree where at the end of the day, we say, you know what? This is important too. We matter, whether it's our vote, whether it's our voice, whether it is our perspective, whether we do it individually in our homes or out in the community. Whatever we decide, we got to do something, because the masses actually have the power, but we have been led to believe that we don't. But knowledge is power. Information is power once it's applied, right? So with that being said, I want to give some perspective, a little bit more perspective of where these monies have been going. Let's go.
Fellow citizens and taxpayers, today's DOGE report comes to you courtesy of Senator Rand Paul's annual Festivus report. Now, I want you to understand this video is not satire. I repeat, this is not a joke. These are actual items that we as taxpayers have already obligated ourselves for, because that money is spent, okay? And this is just a small fraction of those items that are there. And if you want to fact check me, just Google 2024 Rand Paul Festivus report, and you can find these for yourself as well. So I'm going to go through these rather quickly. Please watch until the end, because number 25, it's just stupid. All right. Number 1, we've been spending $10 billion a year on maintaining empty federal office buildings. Number 2, we gave the city of Las Vegas a $12 million grant to build a pickleball complex. Number 3, the State Department
I'm already feeling some type of way, but let's go.
Spent $330,000 censoring conservative media. Number 4, Health and Human Services gave $2 million for a study to see how kids reacted to food advertisements on Facebook. Number 5, $8 million in stolen COVID relief funds was used by a Florida man to buy an island, a private island. Number 6, cocaine and lonely rats. The National Institutes of Health spent $419,470 to see if lonely rats were more likely to use cocaine than social rats. Newsflash, the lonely rats used more drugs than the social rats. Number 7, $15.5 billion was spent by the Department of Energy trying to convince us to buy electric cars we don't want. Number 8, $4.8 million for Ukrainian influencers. Don't know what the hell we're doing that for. Number 9, $365,000 for a circus. The National Endowment for the Arts spent $365,000 promoting circuses in public parks.
So right now, I think we're not even at 10 yet. And they're talking about social rats with lonely rats, circuses. Y'all, don't get me started. We're going to keep it going, because I got a lot to say, but sometimes you got to pick the time and the place to say it.
All right, number 10, $3 million for girl-centered climate action in Brazil. The government spent $3 million trying to promote climate activism by women in Brazil, or girls in Brazil. How stupid can we be? All right, $873,000 to fund films in the country of Jordan. Why would we do such a thing? All right, we're about halfway done. Number 12, $345,000 to fight terrorism with soccer. I guess we're going to teach terrorists to play soccer instead of being terrorists. That's just a bad idea, and a huge waste of money. Number 13, we gave $700 million to a failed trucking company. You know, those funds should have went to disaster disaster relief for those impacted by the hurricanes and the wildfires this year. Instead, that money was given to a trucking company that failed, and it's never to be returned. Number 14, $288,000 for diversity in bird watching. The National Science Foundation
Bird watching.
spent $288,563 to try and make bird watching groups more diverse. Well, what are we going to do next? Equity and stamp collecting? Now, number 15 is absolutely ridiculous. $892 billion in interest payments on our national debt. That's just interest payments. We're not paying anything off. We've all of a sudden became the uncle with 27 maxed out credit cards and bad credit. Number 16, we gave $500,000 to Ethiopia so they could expand their social media presence.
So we giving other countries $500,000 to help them and their residents with social media. When we got homeless people, we got elderly people that can't afford their medication because they had to choose between medication and their basic grocery needs for the month. And they can't afford a car no more. And if they could, they probably can't afford to put gas in it. But we can give other countries money for bird watching and social media. Okay.
17, $7 million for magic-related projects. $7 million was spent on various magic-related projects, including a podcast about American magical belief. So what are we going to do next? Are we going to fund Hogwarts as well? Number 18, we spent $2.1 million for border security in the country of Paraguay.
Say what? We spent $2.1 billion for border control in the country of Paraguay. That doesn't say United States-Mexico border. That says the country of Paraguay. So all the money that Trump spent in his first time in the administration wasn't enforced. They're tearing it down, selling the pieces of the border off for pennies on the dollar, just for the taxpayers of this country to have to reinforce it and do it all over again.
Meanwhile, we can't secure our own border. Number 19, $385,000 was spent for a giant 16-foot pigeon statue in New York City. I cannot imagine.
$16,000. You know what $16,000 can do? It can feed a family of 3 or 4 for a year. Sustainable foods.
Imagine why somebody would want to put up a statue of a pigeon. We all know what pigeons do. They make a mess, and now we're putting up statues to those birds who make messes. What a huge waste of money. We also spent $20 million for fertilizer research abroad, meaning we did fertilizer research in Pakistan, Vietnam, Colombia, and Brazil. How about...
For who? For who? Because last time I checked, in this country, Bill Gates owns over 60% of the farmland. So all of these millions of taxpayers, U.S. taxpayers' dollars, are going for research that none of us seem to benefit from. You can't even be a healthy vegan unless you grow your own food. Who is this research for? I'm just asking.
We keep that money for our American farmers. All right, number 21, we did spend $2.2 million on COVID experiments on cats. Number 22, we spent $123,000 to teach viral videos in the country of Kyrgyzstan. I think I got that.
I can't even pronounce that. And I've never heard of it. So $123,000 go for another country for social media. What is the money going for? So they have social media. Is it to improve the Wi-Fi? Is it to teach them how to perform in front of a camera? Is it teaching them how to twerk? I'm lost. I'm not understanding.
Right, $123,066 spent teaching Kyrgyzstan kids how to make viral videos. I'm sure that's exactly what their country needs, are a bunch of kids running around staring at their smartphones. All right, here's number 23, $1.5 million to spin kittens for science. $1.5 million was spent on spinning kittens to study motion sickness. Please make me understand how there is any scientific value to that at all. What a huge waste of money. Number 24, $720,479 for Mexican duck conservation. Meanwhile, our American ducks, they didn't get a dime. All right, number 25, the last one, $20 million for for Sesame Street in Iraq. U.S. aid spent $20 million on a Sesame Street reboot in Iraq. Now, these things that I've just listed off here are a fraction of the $1 trillion in wasted money last year alone.
Y'all, I'm telling you, we couldn't have survived another 4 years of anything remotely close to what we're experiencing now. We need total transparency. We need absolute transparency, accountability. And I don't care how deep that rabbit hole goes. Pause. That didn't come out right. But I will say this. When it comes to Trump, I hope he shares my same sentiment. Because at the end of the day, it's what are you willing to sacrifice and how deep are you ready to go? Pause. I'm just saying, right? So I got one more quick little thingamajig. Actually, this is another, oh Lord. I do want to share this. Give me 1 second. Because that's just touching the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what these monies are being spent on. And you know what that does? It gives me perspective on how much money and what kind of wealth our country actually possesses. We shouldn't have no homelessness. We shouldn't have no drug problem. We shouldn't have any misplaced or displaced children. We shouldn't have nobody that's hungry. Everybody should be mobile, whether it's through the infrastructure of their town, their community, their city, their rural area, or if you have your own transportation. We shouldn't have to choose between our necessities with all of the money that this country generates. Even though there are times we don't act like it, we are still probably arguably so at this point, but I will argue that we are still the most powerful country in the world. Even if it's by the skin of our teeth, we still have to acknowledge where we are and what power we have. And with all of the, even though a lot of them illegal immigrants don't pay taxes, some of them do, which means even though there's more money being poured out onto them than being taken in, it still grows the tax. Why are we in deficit in the $1 trillion status, right? So this list here is actually the monies in the past 4 years during the tenure of the last administration, the total amount estimated for each country, for the country as a whole. Okay? Mexico, 295 million. Now that's just what has been given to Mexico. We're not even talking about what has been dispersed with the Mexicans here illegally. All of the aid, the resources, the necessities that the U.S. citizen deems to be necessities, they're staying in luxury hotels. They're getting down money for homes and businesses. They don't even have papers in order to become a legal driver, much less pass a driver exam to get a driver's license, but they were getting funding for vehicles, running into school buses, doing hit and runs, tearing up stuff. No accountability, because as soon as they go through, if they even show up for court, they're going back out. It's like they have asylum and immunity in this country. So we're talking about $295 million, excluding all of that. That is going to the Mexican residents and citizens of Mexico. We got the Czech Republic, $324 million. Let's go down the list. Romania, $397 million. Bulgaria, $431 million. Pakistan, 536 million. Colombia, 731 million. I want to see, okay, Ukraine down there. I was looking for Ukraine because I was like, they missing something off of this list, but they not. Philippines, $809 million. They classify the Philippines as being one of the poorer countries, but we can afford to give them $809 million. They shouldn't be one of the poorest anymore. Somalia, almost $1 billion, 998 million. Lebanon, even billion. Jordan, 2.3 billion. Afghanistan, 6.1 billion. Egypt, 6.3 billion. Ukraine, 2.6 billion. Israel, 8.5 billion. I'm not going to sit too long on this because it's going to make me mad. But we'll just take one off the list. Let's just do that. Let's just take one. Just one of those countries. How about we pick good old Ukraine? Since we've been watching our money just fly out of here willy-nilly, every opportunity they get, they just send it right on over. Don't get permission, don't get a vote, don't ask the people, and they're not even transparent as to what they were sending it over there for, at least not the truth. But let's just take Ukraine for $2.6 billion. Imagine what infrastructure, roads that need to be badly repaired, families that need to be placed. You can build homes, enough homes to where the homelessness is not an issue anymore. And if it is, that's because they want to be homeless. That's just one country. To me, do your own due diligence and your own research. But I have gained some understanding as to why the very first day in office, Trump signed over 100 executive orders. This is insulting. It is infuriating. It is sad. It is totally a slap in the face to show the disregard for the very people that have allotted and awarded you the ability to be able to provide these kinds of resources. But I'm going to ask this question one more time before we move on. And I asked it earlier, why is there such a vested interest in everybody else across the globe, but at home? What is the agenda? What is the bigger picture? If you know, you know. If not, get to know. To me, this is writing on the wall for what's to come. And in my personal belief, I'm going to go out and say this. I believe that Trump being in office is just delaying it. I don't believe it is going to prevent it from coming to pass. $2.6 billion with a B dollars to Ukraine. Just one country out of this whole list would eradicate a majority of the problems and the issues that we have here unilaterally. Let's go ahead and watch this last video. We're going to close on now. Salute to the chat. Salute to the chat.
Miranda, the basic thrust here, the Democrats are basically defending the bureaucracy, defending the regulators, and opposing all these audits of fraud and opposing anything that reduces federal spending. They love the bureaucracy. What kind of message is that?
I think it just tells everybody, including their voters, that they are corrupt to the core. They're defending their slush funds to the death. They're defending the bureaucracy, the slush funds, the corruption, the waste and abuse above anything else that they've ever cared about. They never cared about the victims of illegal migration, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Americans look at that and go, hang on, where are your priorities?
I think, Emily, if you polled, I mean, there probably are polls. Do you want to shrink the size of government? Is the government too big? Does it regulate too much? It's like an 80-20 issue, and the Democrats are on the 20% side. I don't understand how they can be so utterly stupid.
And obtuse. We heard today, for example, and a lot of our elected officials whose salaries we pay standing on the street corner shouting about how the president has started forcibly removing people from government when that particular issue couldn't be further from the truth because he gave the choice, right? What kills me in addition to that knee-jerk resistance is how it has infiltrated to activist judges. So I'm curious to the point of not only defending that ridiculous spending, the opacity of the government that our tax dollars totally fund, but also blocking why do we want biological males in biological female prisons? Why do our taxpayer dollars pay for contraceptives in all female prisons? The root of these questions are totally clear on the moral front, and yet for some reason that resistance goes toe-to-toe on that line, defending every dollar and defending, again, that radical extremist view that I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, November 5th sent that mandate that we don't want it anymore.
USA.
Follow the money. At the end of the day, follow the money. There is a purpose for creating these asinine reasons for spreading the money to anybody but those that could really benefit from them. And she said something very important, the moral fabric. There is none when it comes to the political perspective of this party, of the Liberal Party. They aren't trying to fool nobody. They're not caring about fooling nobody. They don't care to provide any answers. They do for the sake of paperwork. But that first video that we saw, if you haven't been able, if you came in later and you didn't see it, go back and watch it, where the Democrats are super pissed off and ready for war to defend. But it's always about Trump. Where is the accountability? Kamala never took accountability about that $1 billion being frivolously spent and misallocated for purposes that really didn't serve anybody but themselves. There is no accountability. They don't care about the moral fabric. You got men that all they had to do was say that I identify as a woman. They go and they're placed into women's prisons. And you got women being the R word, being violated, being impregnated, being given STDs. We're not even talking about the psychological trauma and things that they will be dealing with for the rest of their lives, whether they're incarcerated or they're not. Where is the moral fiber? And if you talk about this being a Christian country, or that's the foundation of this country is Christianity, then why isn't the leadership representing that? It's not representation when you're sending money over to other countries. The Bible speaks of a man being the provision of his home. The Bible doesn't talk about a man providing for his home, to go out and work to get paid to take care of everyone outside of his home. He's responsible for his home. The time that we are under government leadership and rulership, they should be taking care of home, period. Period. Should be taking care of home. We're almost done with this. Salute to the chat. Hey, y'all. Hey. I did a little natural pause. Just give it a second. It'll kick
USAID has found giving money, sending money to terrorist groups. Okay, we know that. It was uncovered in the Elon Musk audit. Now, who the heck is going to defend that? I don't know. I want to move on to other stuff, but Democrats are essentially defending it. They don't want USAID to be dismantled. They don't want it to be reduced in force. They're defending it. How can you defend that?
They lie about it and pretend that it's about feeding starving children in Biafra or something.
Oh, my God.
They didn't even do that. When Biden was sending that money over to Ukraine, that man is an actor and a social media presence in his country, their leader, right? They don't even try to fool nobody. They got this man in black spandex with high heel wedge shoes on, dropping it like it's hot and twerking with his comrades in the videos. But then he'll come and get all round paid trips over to this country for photo ops to go back and brag about the wealth that is being accumulated or the sustenance that is being given to them and the backing while they're going at it with Russia. We were aware of all of this. So I want to give her a little bit of pushback. They used to tell us it was to feed hungry children in other countries. They used to put commercials up that would show Ethiopian malnutritioned children eating rice with their hands out of a clay bowl with no shoes, no shirt, and tattered bottoms on, unkempt hair. They tried to fool somebody. They ain't even trying to fool nobody at this point. They're not even trying to fool nobody. They are letting us know, and what they don't let us know, they just don't say nothing because they've been getting away with it for so long. And it has spiraled to this degree that now it's like, now they feel indignant. Now they feel justified with their anger. We've been getting away with it for this long. What does it matter? What does it matter? Hey, beautiful Ann. Thank you. I appreciate the super sticker. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Y'all, let's just go through this last little bit and we're done.
Starving children in Biafra.
And they also resist the intelligence that has been out there for quite some time, pointing out that we've been funding the Taliban for years, right? To millions and millions per week, and continued even after we paused USAID or foreign spending. We are still funding $43 million per week to the Taliban. So they are the closed eyes and ears there go far beyond simply dollar for dollar.
Miranda, Mr. Trump is stripping the security clearances for Joe Biden, for his former Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. But what interests me particularly, he's stripping them here in New York for Letitia James and Alvin Bragg. That means they can't enter their federal clearance is stopped. Now, that's pretty tough stuff. What do you make of it?
It is. And look, in a way, it's a symbolic slap in the face to the two of them, and I think possibly a prelude of things to come, because what they did to Donald Trump, their lawfare that they engineered against him during the campaign, was so politicised and so dishonest and corrupt that you can't just let it go. It's not a matter of vengeance, it's a matter of a reckoning. And so I think this is just a signal to them that, hey, you know, there's more to come down the pipe.
Two can play at this game. Exactly. He's absolutely right. I mean, weaponization is out of favor right now. They can't go into federal courthouses, okay? Let them just, put that in their pipe and smoke.
So, you know, when they talk about an eye for an eye, you sit back and you think about all of the tactics that they use to try to, you know, to prevent Trump from not just becoming president or getting elected another term, but to have him incarcerated and taken away, and for whether it's justified, whether it's not, that's not my fight. That's not for me to have an opinion on one way or the other, because what it is at this point. And we are where we are, but people absolutely need to be held accountable. And then when you have Biden pardoning and establishing a whole pre-pardon system to where these people that he pardoned and pre-pardoned will not ever be convicted of anything that they do based off of him co-signing for them. It is like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And you got two members of the political arena of the Dems that got their security clearance taken away, and you think it was the end of the world. They're still walking around free. There had to be a justifiable cause for it. It's evil versus good at this point. At the end of the day, we can pick, we can tear apart, we can break down, we can isolate certain talking points, we can debate, we can go back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's about good versus evil. And at the end of the day, we want to ask ourselves, where do we stand with it all, right? I appreciate y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all for sliding through. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for all of the patience and the time, which is your most valuable resource, for coming in and sharing it with Miss Akemi. I'm grateful for that alone. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Miss Ann, again for the super chat, the super sticker. Thank you to my mods. I appreciate y'all. If you're just coming in or if you haven't been able to catch it from the beginning, I would recommend you do so. Trump is attempting to drain the swamp. I want to keep all of us in prayer. I want to keep all of us under a covering, because anything is bound to happen. And if you're still breathing and if you're still here, that means we still got work to do. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all. Hey, Selena, let me go. I do want to just quickly acknowledge, because I haven't been paying attention or close attention to my chat. So I definitely would love to thank those that came through and typed in the chat for doing so. So we got the beautiful Selena, the beautiful Miss Ann. We got What a Man in the house, Wooda Man. Appreciate you coming through. We got CX 2.0 in the building. Thank you. Thank you. Always supporting. Always, always. We got the beautiful Joy in the building. I appreciate you. We got Miss Nene Loyal. Thank you for being a member, Nene. If you still in the building, thank you kindly. Thank you kindly. We got Girl Dad cooking up deliciousness. Hey, but I like your name, and I'm almost positive who you are, but yes, because I've heard you say Girl Dad before. So thank you for coming through as always. Thank you for your support as well. We got Jenny Velez, beautiful Jenny in the building. We got my Salaya Binya in the house. Thank you for always for coming through. And we got the beautiful Alexandra slid through today. Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here. And then we got our lovely member and great supporter, Sassy 81, Complex Design. Yes. Okay. Maybe, I don't know if he must be a different account. Okay. So yes, Complex, thank you for coming through as well. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. I appreciate y'all so much. And yeah, thank you for coming through, and I'll see y'all in the next chat. Peace.